Here we go. Welcome to Guardians and Gladiators, our first episode of 2022. And as it is 2022, I'm still not in the Hair Club for Men Club. Unbelievable. My name is Lauzie. My co-host is with me as always. Is D. How you been?
I'm good. Happy New Year, Lauzie.
Happy New Year's.
How was your holiday season?
It was good.
Yeah.
It was good. Busy with work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they locked us down again.
Yes. Yeah. And that affects your job, right? That shuts down the restaurant there. So you're out of work. You're bored and lazy, feet up on the couch surfing all day now, aren't you?
A little bit. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure you'll keep yourself busy. And especially having your daughter there, she's going to keep you busy, and you get out there and enjoy some of the nice cold weather we're starting to experience now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Winter in Canada. You got to love it. Right? 8 degrees one day, minus 15 the next.
Yep.
Great. Well, it's exciting to be back. I know we took a little break there. It gave everybody a chance to enjoy the holidays, and the main reason we like to say is we took a break so all of our new listeners could catch up on all the episodes before, right? And we hope they've all had a chance to do that, and they're all caught up with Lauzie and D and Guardians and Gladiators. And here we go, kicking off 2022 with a pretty decent episode, if I do say so myself.
Oh yeah, we got a couple of good guests.
We do. We're going to speak with a local athlete here in London, Chris Innes, talk a little bit about some of the sports that Chris takes part in. And then we're going to move on to the main man in Ontario, aren't we? This guy is the top cheese when it comes to Special Olympics in Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Who do we got?
Yeah.
Who's our special guest today?
Glenn McDougan?
MacDonnell. We'll just say
MacDonnell.
We'll just call him Glenn, right? Everyone says his last name the wrong way, but it's Glenn MacDonnell, who is the president and CEO of Special Olympics Ontario, is going to join us. And Glenn always has some great information, and we'll be able to find out kind of where we're at and where we're going as far as Special Olympics go in Ontario, right?
Yep.
Good. Excited about it. Looking forward to it. It's really nice to be back. I missed this over the holidays. And I know you did too, didn't you?
Oh, I sure did.
Yeah. Well, here we are. We're back, and we're going to take a short break, come right back, and jump into our first guest right after this.
And welcome back to Guardians and Gladiators, folks. And our first guest for 2022 is an athlete that's been to multiple worlds, won a lot of provincial games, national games. Welcome to the show, Chris Innes.
Yeah. Meet all these athlete people. No, just say hi. Hi.
How are you today, Chris?
Oh, it's good.
That's good. When did you start Special Olympics?
1991.
So how long have you been at it now?
About 31 years.
Wow. And how many sports are you doing right now?
I've been doing swimming, skiing, and soccer and golf. I've been.
And
well, what was your
sports outside of it?
Outside
of Special Olympics, did you do any other sports?
Snowshoeing around the park.
And?
Ice hockey.
And what group do you play ice hockey with, Chris?
George Bray.
George Bray. Yes, we've heard of that a few times on here from some of our other athlete guests have talked about playing for George Bray. That's excellent.
Yeah. What was one of your big accomplishments through Special Olympics?
Competition.
Yeah.
I've been with this versatile training for skiing.
Yeah, but what have you done? How successful have you been?
Been to the provincials
and
nationals and world.
Right. And how many medals have you won?
I got a lot. About 50.
Right on.
So, Chris, when you talk about going to the world, what countries have you been to for the world?
Austria, representing Canada.
Wow. And what event did you take part in there?
Alpine ski.
In Austria? That must have been amazing. I've seen pictures of Austria and the mountains and the
Yeah.
that was it really beautiful there? Sorry, what was that, Chris?
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You met Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger there?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, that's
Wow.
amazing. And what was the scenery like there? What did the mountains look like?
The Alp.
The Alps?
Really like.
What did they
It
look
was
like?
all this, like there was some snow and there was some slush.
Yeah.
Mountains tall.
Yes.
Wow. Like anything we have in London, was it even close to Bowler Mountain?
Yeah.
No, not really. eh?
No way. Where are you working now, Chris?
I'm working at Waldo's downtown Covent Garden Market.
Nice.
What do you
Right
do?
on.
Dishwashers.
Nice.
good. How long have you been working at Waldo's, Chris?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. That's great. We like to talk to some of our athletes that come on about where they work, because we think it's great that these places, hire our athletes and have them working there. And it's good. Do you enjoy working at Waldo's?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are the people nice there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And being in the market, you probably get to see a lot of people during the day, eh?
Yeah.
Well, I should say when things are normal, right? Not like right now.
Yeah, he gets quite busy there. Where did you work before Waddles, Chris?
Windermere Manor.
And how long?
That's
were you
right.
there?
7
Yes.
years.
Nice. And we've been there
Maybe-
for some events up there, haven't we? We've had some. I remember actually when you guys were heading off to the Worlds, they had a little ceremony up there, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
Me and Chris used to work together at Windermere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Did you guys get up to no good while you were working there?
A little bit.
So, Chris, what have you been doing to keep busy now that we're kind of restricted in what we can do?
Uh,
What do you do every day?
snowshoeing.
Snowshoeing, nice. And you said around the park. Which park is that you go?
Jesse Davison.
Oh, nice, nice. So you're hoping for some more snow, aren't you?
Yeah.
Most people don't want snow because they don't like it, but you're hoping for more, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I actually like the snow. I always find that in the winter, you can always dress more and get warm, but in the summer, you can't get cooler, can you?
No. What do you have in the backyard that you can use in the summer?
In the pool.
Yeah.
You got a pool in the backyard. Nice. And you were saying you take part in golf as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so does the host of our show here, Mr. Lauzie, also a golfer. Have you guys golfed together?
Yeah, a few times.
Yeah, nice. So, Chris, we keep hearing this voice in the background, and I know it's not a ghost. So, who do you have with you this morning?
My dad.
Your dad. And can we introduce your dad? What does your dad do as far as Special Olympics go in London?
He's the chef.
Chef.
He's a pretty big deal when it comes to Special Olympics in London, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be nice to have a dad who runs everything, eh?
No, I don't run everything. I just try and give everybody what they need to run everything.
We're pretty fortunate today because with Chris being our first guest of our first episode of 2022, and here we have his dad, John, John, what's your official position? Is it president of Special Olympics London?
No, the actual title is community coordinator. So
Community
as the title suggests, the idea is that I chair the community council, and the community council is made up of volunteers who work diligently to give all of the managers and coaches of the various sports that Special Olympics Ontario London offers, gives them the resources that they need in order to do the programming that we offer to all of our athletes.
Excellent. So you along with our second guest of the day, who just happens to be the president and CEO of Special Olympics Ontario, have really elevated our show. Hey, Lauzie, we've become a pretty important podcast now when we have people like this to join us, don't we?
Yeah, that's who we needed.
So, Chris, what are you looking forward to the most? And hopefully when this pandemic settles down and we can get back to doing things out there, what are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, the sports.
Yeah. Is there a sport in particular that you're excited about?
Like golf.
Golf, yeah. Probably all of them, right? Would that be fair to say? You just want to get back playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you
Yeah.
say what's something else that you miss a lot in relation to this? Have you made a lot of friends through Special Olympics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I miss skiing and swim
Yeah.
People.
and the people.
Yeah. The people
Yeah.
are important, aren't they? It makes it fun when you get to see all of your friends out there at the events, doesn't it?
Yeah, he always likes to joke with the people and give them a hard time. So
Oh, I
yeah.
know. I know when some of our torch run people come out and we play, I think we played floor hockey against you guys before, Chris, and I know some of the girls on our on our torch run team, you're familiar with some of them because you give them a hard time and joke around with them, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have something we like to do with all of our athlete guests. I'm going to let Lauzie tell you about it.
So Chris,
Yeah.
as athletes, we follow an oath. Can you tell me the oath?
Oh.
the Special Olympics oath.
This
Oh. About all those rules.
No, what is the oath? What is the oath that you said?
I don't know.
Let me.
Let me win. If I cannot win, let me be brave in the tent.
nice. So can you tell us in any of one of your sports when you were brave in the attempt?
Try your best.
No, what sport were you afraid?
Skiing.
And what happened?
And I cut my leg on
Uh-oh.
accident in North Bay. I was getting my
Wow.
back in 15.
How many sutures did you get?
8.
Oh my goodness. That was a pretty deep cut.
So he
Wow.
was participating in the downhill, and it was a particularly icy day. The ski flew off when he was at the top of the hill. He got back up, put the ski back on, came down, finished the run. That run basically eliminated him from the medal runs for the day because, of course, the clock was still ticking. But he went back up and did a second run, came down with a phenomenal time. And as he was sitting at the bottom of the hill waiting to warm up and see his time, one of the volunteers went, "Oh my God," and looked down, and there was blood on his leg over the top of his boot. And what had happened was the metal tip of the ski had slashed into the front of his thigh and had actually cut it so deep that he needed multiple stitches, ended up going to the hospital. But he was so focused on the competing that day that he didn't even notice that he'd been cut.
Wow. So you
Wow.
that second run that you did a great time on, you did it with this cut. Oh my goodness.
See?
Yes.
Good for that. Wow. That is exactly what that oath says, doesn't it, Chris? About being
Oh,
brave
yeah.
in the attempt. That is amazing.
And then tell them what you wanted to do that night with sutures in your leg.
The dance.
Yes.
So one thing common about all Special Olympic athletes is that they love to dance.
Yes. I've
That's the
actually
first thing he said to the doctor. He said, "I dance tonight."
Oh, I love it. That is great. And well, the big question everyone's waiting for, Chris, did you go dance that night?
Yes.
Well done. Well done. Oh, that's great. Well, Chris, we were really excited to have you on our show. Thank you so much for sharing those things with us. It's excellent. We really hope that things start to turn around and that you can get back out there. I don't know if we'll be turned around in time for more skiing this year, but hopefully by the time golf season comes, you'll be back out there with your friends and you'll be kicking this guy's butt, the host here, right? You'll be kicking Lauzie's butt out on the golf course, eh?
Yeah.
Who's the better golfer, you or Chris?
I am.
No hesitation whatsoever.
You didn't even think about it.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have to have a competition at some point here between the two of you, and we'll talk about it on our show. How does that sound?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks very much, Chris. And thank you to your parents for joining us this morning. We really appreciate this. We wish you all the best, and we hope that things clear up so you can get back out there and involved in your sports again.
Happy New Year's.
Happy New
Happy
Year
New
to you
Year's
too.
to you too.
Yeah.
All right. Lauzie and I will be right back after this with our next guest. Welcome back to Guardians and Gladiators. Our first episode of 2022 is off to a great start. And as we move on, we just get bigger and better here. Joining us now is, we call him the Big Kahuna. Lauzie, is that what we should call him? We are being joined by the president and CEO of Special Olympics Ontario, Glenn MacDonnell. Glenn, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here, fellas. Thanks for inviting me.
You're
Yeah, it's
welcome.
our pleasure. Our pleasure. So, Glenn, as the man in charge here for Ontario, at least, can you just, I know this is going to be almost an impossible task, but in a few sentences, how would you sum up 2021 as far as Special Olympics in Ontario goes?
Challenging year, Derek and Chris. Yeah, I think everyone who's part of Special Olympics knows that, we got a few of our programs somewhat opened up, and in the summertime, programs like golf, et cetera, seemed a little bit more, easy to get rolling. And then in the fall, we began to get bowling and some of those up. We got as many as almost 30% of our programs happening. And then we hit the pandemic that we're in right now, and we're kind of hunkered down. But the enthusiasm, I think, guys, of our athletes and coaches have been really terrific. Because before Christmas, when people are beginning to plan, they're looking to get this pandemic behind us, but they sure haven't forgotten about our athletes and the programs that we love so much.
Yeah, as we were doing this podcast, we started up just in early fall of last year, and it seemed like each week, Lauzie, as we were doing our podcast, we got better news every week. It was great. We had athletes on, and you yourself, one episode, Glenn, I had to, oh my goodness, I had to turn the volume down a bit. This guy was cheering and yelling because floor hockey was coming back, and the excitement was unbelievable. But every guest we see, every athlete we seem to talk to every week, we have better and better news. And it was really encouraging. Wasn't it, Lauzie? I know you yourself.
Oh yeah, it was great.
But here we are. We've had to deal with this, a couple times now in the past, and some setbacks, but I guess we got to stay optimistic, right? Because there's a lot brighter days ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, Derek. I think the resiliency of folks. I know I had a lot of chats with athletes and volunteers last week, and everybody's hopeful that this particular wave isn't going to be as long or as difficult as some of the ones we've gone through. That's the optimistic side. We have to plan, as one coach says. We got to plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so when we mean worst, we mean we're pretty tired of Zoom virtual competitions, et cetera. But I think some of the things that we've been trying to do to make things a little bit more like sport, those are first and foremost, as opposed to, just encouraging athletes to get out for a walk, et cetera, but to try and find ways that makes it a little bit more like sport. So we're continuing to work on some of the ideas that will make it, make this particular part of the pandemic not seem as long and drudgery. And in some ways, guys, what we're doing here this morning is really part of that. Sports all about is all about having fun. And as one athlete said, that's the part, not so much that everyone hasn't done all the best they can possibly do to get through this the last couple of years. It's just that the fun isn't quite the same. The things that we enjoy most is when we're all together, and that's been the difficult thing. So we have to keep our chins up, and podcasts like this, and there's every week there seems to be somebody inviting me on, whether it's a bunch of athletes or in one part of the province or another part of the province, and coaches, and that's really good. That speaks well to people looking and saying, I gotta stay in contact with people, and if this is the best way I can do it right now, good on you two guys for doing this for our London, St. Thomas, Southwestern Ontario crew, and this is good. It keeps people plugged in.
When did you starting with Special Olympics, Glenn?
Wow, Chris, I actually worked at an institution for people with intellectual disabilities down in the Smith Falls area, And then I joined Special Olympics as a field staff. You know, one of your good pals, Bill Mills, was my orientation officer. So Bill and I are longtime friends. And then when Jim Jordan, who was the executive director of Ontario at the time, was going over to Special Olympics Canada, I inherited the leadership role that I'm in today. And believe it or not, Chris, I'll tell you how old I am. I'm 32 years. I've been executive director and the president of Special Olympics. So when I run into guys like you who've been around the movement a few years, it's fun because I've been around a little while myself.
Yeah.
And now you guys know each other fairly well, right? Lauzie, you were saying Glenn was even a participant in your little group chat that you have with some of the guys here.
Yeah, we just thought, let's see who else can join us, and sent him a message, and there he was one day. We join us for a little bit.
It was fun, Chris. I really enjoyed that. It was fun to just one of the things when you have a smaller group like we are today, we can sort of caboose back and forth easy. And there was only 3 or 4 of us, I think, on that day, Chris, and it was fun to tell some jokes and some stories and have as I like to call it, a little bit of fun.
Yeah. So when you became the president and CEO of Special Olympics Ontario, what was your vision of moving forward?
I guess, Chris, one of the things I always tell people, like, I think at the time when I became the executive director, we had about 4,600 athletes in Ontario. And I actually think at the time the board was probably looking for somebody who was a little bit more like the volunteers and the coaches. And I had been a coach down in the Eastern Ontario area, and so I kind of really knew what the program looked like on the ground. My background is sport and recreation, but certainly I had a few years involved with Special Olympics. So it was kind of easy for me to, in some ways, to look and say, well, the most important part of this organization is the grassroots. It's where our athletes practice and play, and where our coaches come on board, and and everything else flows from that. And so I always look at when Derek's on the phone, I always look when people looked and said, well, how come the torch runs seem to grow so much in Ontario versus other places? It's because I always look at the law enforcement community as the best vehicle for us to create awareness in our communities. There was always somebody know who a police officer was in Belleville or Stratford or Kenora, and that was my strategy, was to build that relationship with the policing community and put all our focus on the grassroots and grow it. And if we grew it, then the rest of it would flow from there. Fundraising would improve, our games would get bigger, all those kinds of things. So everybody always looks at it the other way, because we certainly, as you know, Christy, you've been in many games. Our games are pretty exciting and great, and there's a lot of people who've done such a great job of organizing our games. But as a guy that's been in the program, the best parts of the program is probably the Tuesday night bowling program, or the floor hockey program, or whatever sport that you're actually in, because that's where you see your buddies, that's where you practice, and that's where the fun all begins.
Yeah, I don't know how many times, Lauzie, we've had athletes on here, and we have a thing, Glenn, where we get them to recite the oath, and then we ask them to tell us about a time where they were brave in the attempt, or or their greatest memory of Special Olympics. And it's, if we had a percentage, we'd probably be up over 80% of them. It's got nothing to do with the sport. It's more to do with the friendships they've made. We've had people on here have met their spouse through Special Olympics, and they're married. Chris and I, we even talked about getting a dating app for Special Olympics. And it seemed everybody we had, they met on Special Olympics. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it really is. And I when people always ask me, what's your best experience? I'd say the same thing, Derek. I'd say it's really never about a World Games you attended, or something that you got credit for doing well. It's always been the friends that you met along the way, and the relationships that you have over for me over 30 years, and that really, when you look at it, you say, geez, I don't think if I hadn't been part of Special Olympics, none of that likely would have happened. My friends wouldn't certainly be as wide as they are, across the province, across the country, across the world, and for sure, I think I think was talking to a parent before Christmas, and they said that that was the thing that was most difficult for their daughter who's in Special Olympics. It said, it's the sport has been terrific and she's improved as an athlete, etc. But God, does she miss the social connection to her friends and the routine that goes with that? And, when we think about if any of us that likes, sport, like I haven't played old timers hockey in 2 years, like you look at it and you say, well, geez, all the fun that you looked and say, geez, I can't wait to get out of this office. And we used to play hockey at 5 o'clock, and hell, I was trying to figure a way to get out of the office by 3, and so all this kind of fun that we have that kind of flows through sport, a lot of it has to do. So I didn't become a better hockey player. I just missed the guys.
So whenever it comes down, when all this pandemic is all over, what's the vision for Special Olympics to move on and move forward?
Chris, it's a great call. And I guess if anything we've learned over the last couple of years, it's not that you can kind of cast something in stone, but we are really working on a plan. And one of the things that a number of volunteers are working behind the scenes on is something that we're going to call hometown games. And really, for lack of a better term, it's just going to be in some ways the way to make competitions come back, because it won't come back in 500 people or 1,000 people. They'll come back in a floor hockey tournament with 4 or 5 teams in it, or a bowling competition with 100 athletes, because there'll be, I'm sure we're going to be battling the some of the regulations in terms of what you can do, and then just how comfortable people will feel in terms of traveling and staying over in hotels, etc. It won't come back overnight. And so we think, and within that, we're talking about having medals and ceremonies and using that as sort of the bridge back to to bigger events. And I think if we do that, Chris, like how long have you been in the program, Chris? How long have you been part of Special Olympics?
2004.
2004. So okay, well you're getting close to 20-year mark. So you'll know what I mean. Like when you'd have a regional floor hockey tournament or something like 20 years ago, it was like we didn't really have real major games till about 25 years ago. So like we really used to kind of focus and say, okay, we're having a floor hockey tournament and London's going to host it, and in came St. Thomas and Windsor and Chatham and whatever. And that became a pretty exciting part. And that's kind of how games kind of rolled out of that. So I think one of the good thing about having a couple of us old guys around who remember what kind of regional games look like and local floor hockey tournaments look like, we put the shine and the focus back on that. We'll be so. I think the athletes, Chris, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think they're so looking forward to competition of any kind.
Yeah.
That I think that'll seem like it'll seem like a huge thing, and then before we know it, I think the rest of it, as our confidence gets built back, it'll come back quicker. But yeah, we're working right behind the scenes right now to sort of saying just as we would in a normal time, the spring sports, the summer sports, the winter sports, like which ones, like some of the challenges like we were dealing with before Christmas was that the facilities don't come back all at once, so schools as an example. So like it may be the summertime or the next fall before we get back into the schools the way we were before, because we had a lot of programs, basketball, floor, we had a lot of local programs operating in schools, and they'll come back, but it might take us a little longer than some of the municipal facilities.
Right. So I'm going to switch gears here just for a second. And this upcoming week is a big week for Special Olympics nationwide, isn't it, Glenn? When we're talking across Canada here, this is a big week coming up. And funny enough, all three of us are involved in this next week. Lauzie here is going to be one of the athlete volunteers. I will be there as one of the representatives from Special Olympics Ontario. And of course, you have a huge role in this, Glenn. Talk to us a little bit about this coming week, which, I guess we could refer to it as like a lobby week or something like that as far as the federal government goes.
Yeah, Derek, thanks for asking. We started back in Hill Day about, let's say 8 or 9 years ago, where we successfully began to, lobby government, let government know what we're doing. And it really did help us. We were able to get access some funding that's helped us really grow the program on the ground. And as we've kind of gone through this pandemic, not to bore you with all the details, that we have a funding proposal that's going back into the government. It's sort of a renewal. It's not really asking for more, but it's to try and retain what we actually have. And we have some friends that, former board members like Ron McLaughlin, et cetera, who've done a lot of work with government. And Ron encouraged us he said that, this is the way government actually has to operate right now. And elected officials, whether they be from London or Waterloo or wherever they are, they're interested in what's going on in their communities. And they encourage us to say, listen, you should organize your Hill Day, where we're not able to all traipse down to Ottawa like we did, 4 years ago. We are able to have some meetings with elected officials and senators, et cetera, who will want to hear our story and will want to know what we did with the money that they gave us the first time around. And they were very encouraging to us. And so to the moment, Derek, one of the things that's like in Ontario alone, like we would have had on a normal Hill Day, and that's when we were really, really well organized. We had about 27 meetings, I think, on the Hill. That was as many as we could with as many people as we were able to kind of drag down. This year we'll have 54 meetings with elected officials. So it's great that you and Chris are going to be part of that. And really, I think for lack of a better term, it's really just letting government know and letting those folks who we elect from our different local communities what we're up to and how they can help us.
Good. Yeah, looking forward to the weekend. I know, Lauzie, you are as well.
Yeah.
Just listen, you can't spend the whole time talking to the member of parliament about this podcast, all right? You have to talk a
Yeah,
little bit more
I know,
about some other things, okay? 'Cause you've done more than just create this podcast, all right? So,
Yeah.
all right. Just to wrap up, Glenn, a lot of times when we speak to athletes here and they talk about, I was working yesterday, whatever, and we'd like to give a shout out to the employers that hire people with intellectual disabilities, because there's a lot of guys, we've had guys and girls on our show that have worked in places like Home Depot for a number of years. And, it's great. And we like to recognize those people. Can you just think top of your head, a few sponsors for Ontario that we can give a quick shout out to that really help out with Special Olympics, like on a regular basis, that have been with us for a long time as provincial sponsors?
Well, three that come off the top of my head. One which has been with us for about 5-6 years, Deloitte and Touche. They've been terrific. Deloitte has a number of employees working in their accounting firms, and they've been a big sponsor. Both Tim Hortons and Zobies as well have had a number of our athletes work and are actually wanting to grow that participation. One of the things when Tim Hortons came on board is it was ironic how many people they didn't actually know until they sort of checked themselves how many athletes they actually had across the country, working locally. And that, in some ways, I think, guys, was one of the reasons I think Tim Hortons continues to be interested in Special Olympics is that I think they were pleasantly surprised where it came, in conjunction, not again to bore you, it sort of came when we were going to the World Games in LA and we were able to kind of broker this relationship with Tim Hortons. But I think they got down on the ground again and local franchisees and that started looking around and said, absolutely, I got George has been with us for 10 years and he's been working, he's the best employee I have, and it sort of kind of grew from that. And the next thing you know, across the country, it was like a wildfire. So I think those stories, are really important. And I think, as you well know, Derek and Chris, the sport program is really just the platform we use to get people more involved with their communities. And so it's great now that employment is beginning to become a more important, and it's going to be even more important than ever coming out of this pandemic, because we know how that has really disrupted everyone's lives, including our athletes. I've chatted to a number of folks who've either been laid off or shuttered for some reason or another. Most of it pandemic related, and they really missed that part of their life. Not only the paycheck it provided, but that social connection again of seeing the value they felt from their work life. So there will have to be a lot of attention on that side as we come out of the pandemic as well for our folks.
Well, I know as a now retired police officer, that was basically the reason I ate as many donuts as I did, was to support Special Olympics. Nothing to do with anything else other than that was just a way to support Special Olympics. That was all.
Well, and the funny thing about it, Derek, there's one. I always look at the partnership we have with law enforcement as kind of not I didn't even think corporate sponsor, but but we have all kinds of our athletes all over the province of Ontario who work at police locations, you know, and I mean lots. And that's great too, because I think it's really put a real positive, you know, personal face on what the movement's all about for someone who supports it the way the law enforcement community does.
Good. And I promise I won't get into it now because we're running short on time, but in our wrap up here, when Lauzie and I discuss it, I'm going to give a little tease as to something related to Tim Hortons that's coming up in a couple of weeks. So we will get into that as we wrap up, because
Sounds
you
like a
don't even
game
know
plan.
about it, Lauzie, and I'm already, my mouth's starting to water thinking about it. So anyway, Glenn, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the podcast. It's been great. It's been nice. Hopefully our athletes that have been listening, you know, although we've had a tough year behind us, they start to look forward and are optimistic towards what's to come in 2022.
Chris, Derek, thanks very much for inviting me, and to all the volunteers and athletes out in London and St. Thomas and Southwest who are listening. Keep your chin up. We'll get through this, and look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Derek.
All right. And Lauzie and I will be right back to wrap up after this.
Welcome back to Guardians and Gladiators. Well, D, what two fine guests we had today. Great stories, and I can't wait to see where Special Olympics goes from here after this pandemic is over.
Absolutely, Lauzie. It was a great show. Chris Innes, what a story that was. Imagine going back up to the top of the hill after a severe cut to your leg like that, not telling anybody, and coming down with an incredible time skiing down.
Yeah.
But of course, the best part is that once they stitched them up and got him healed, he's out
about to
breaking a leg
dance.
on the dance floor later that night. Unbelievable. Excellent story. And speaking of great dancers, no, I shouldn't say that, because I have no idea if Glenn MacDonnell can dance or not. I'm sure he can, though, because there's not much Glenn can't do. So
Yeah.
that was great talking with Glenn. A great recap of a challenging, as he put it, a challenging year in 2021, you know, but all kinds of reasons to be optimistic about 2022. So we're excited about that. Just at the end of speaking with Glenn there, I gave a little tease on something to do with Tim Hortons and some donuts. So what I was talking about there was coming up at the end of this month, I believe the dates are the 28th to the 30th, Tim Hortons, who are a national sponsor with Special Olympics, are continuing their tradition of a day to celebrate Special Olympics and Special Olympics athletes. With the choose to include, day of inclusion type of thing. They're going to be offering a special donut that is made only for this purpose. I've seen a picture of it and it looks delicious. Now, you could put anything on a donut and I will think it looks delicious, because I have to say, I love my donuts. But that's coming up, and I'm sure you're going to hear a lot more about it. There'll be some advertising done through Tim Hortons. You know, so we really hope that all our listeners look forward to that. And on that weekend, get out there and purchase, you know, don't buy one because it's never enough. Buy a dozen. I'm telling you, you'll eat them. Share them with friends. But that is coming up at the end of the month. So keep an eye out for that with Tim Hortons and the special Olympics donut that is coming out. Exciting news there, eh?
Yeah. Is this the third time they did this?
Yeah, I think you're right. Because I remember the first year they did it actually coincided with the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics. And then we did it again last year. And then, yeah, I think you're right. I think this is the third year for it. You know, but I got to say the donut looks pretty appetizing. So I'm sure they'll have some images real soon with it. So that's exciting. That's coming up. You know, in the meantime, we are going through a tough stretch again where we're kind of stuck inside, but you know, we've been through this before. We'll get through this again. Keep in touch with people, listen to your podcasts. A cheap little plug there.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, you guys have your little chats sometimes you do on video chats to keep in touch with people. You know, make sure you do that. It doesn't mean you're stuck inside. You can get outside and enjoy the fresh air. It is a great time of year in this country. I don't care what anybody says. Bundle up, put some warm clothes on, and get out in the fresh air, because it does you the world of good, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that was a great way to start off 2022. We're excited about this year ahead. We're going to keep moving forward, and we look forward to next week's episode.
Oh, I'm excited for what 2022 comes with us this year.
Nice. All right. So thank you again for joining us. We will be back next week. Lauzie and D, looking forward to chatting with you then.
Until next week, keep safe and have a good week.